Thank you very much, and hello and good evening, everybody. It feels like I'm on the dock, but actually, this gentleman and this lady are. My journey with Can began many, many years ago. In some ways, the first goal that they said as SSC and Lintest, my agency, I was not directly involved, but part of the team. 2007 was when I first was in the jury of Can, and then several times later. One of my high points was when Densu Web Chutney got the Agency of the Year globally in that, and that was a very big honor. And of course, we've had years that are good, that are bad. If you look at metals tally, not every year is similar, and not every year do you produce great work either. So that's fair to that extent. However, I do feel, since we want to look forward, I do feel there is a time for some introspection. And we're very lucky that we have people who've won awards just now. And whether it's a bronze or anything, having been a jury, I can tell you at that level, every medal that you win is worth its weight in gold, whether it's called bronze, silver, and so congratulations for that. And somebody very fresh off the dingy jury rooms with just boring pizzas and a lot of Prosecco coming in. So good experiences that we can share. I'm not going to focus. I think we need to be a little introspective and critical of ourselves so that we can move forward. We all know what we've done well, but at the same time, we don't need to be in a gloom and doom moment. I just want to throw one thought, Russell, and I'm sorry I'm not picking on you, but just using this as an example. One thing that's always kind of bothered me in the last few years particularly is that there was a time when we won awards on brands like Ariel. When you go, you see McDonald's winning, you see Heineken winning, you see car accounts winning. And then from India, you have, just to use this example and not to detract from it, a fake note counting machine winning. Is it time that we as a country start focusing on doing great work on real brands which work in the marketplace and pay a little less attention perhaps to what we know is the focus that we're doing just to create the awards? Could that be something that is holding us back?
Yeah, so I think on that very pointed question, and it does feel that there's a bit of the interrogation light on my face. I do want to say that, the Steadfast brand, okay, let me put it to you this way. The first time Fevicol won an award for a glue, right, that was the first year. Now, Steadfast has not won an award in Cannes for the first time. This is actually the second year Steadfast has won. And it's a bit of the strategy that the brand has. In fact, the director of Steadfast, Vikram Raj, his perspective is that I need advertising to drive salience. I don't care about anything else. I'm the leader in the market. And he comes to us year on year. And this is the second year, like I said. We won for Steadfast last year as well. And we'll probably continue winning. And that's how brands are created. That's how consistency over time with that intent. He's not doing this for awards. He's doing it for that attention. And as a market leader, in fact, the brief to us is that, listen, it needs to come back to me. My ad needs to come back to me in a family WhatsApp group. Make that ad. And that's a fairly specific ask. And I think that, it's working. I think, and we've not managed to get in the numbers yet because it's still being viewed, it's still being seen across the country, across the world. But of the few pages we've been tracking, it's 6 million organic views. That's to my mind, the power of creativity. And to my mind, the way that brands like Steadfast become brands like Fevicol.
Great, beautiful. Pinta, from your point of view, and you're a client as well, what is your perspective on this? Would you, as a client, want work that is big on your brands to do it, or are you okay with, as long as it wins an award, it's fine? How do clients perceive this?
Yeah, First of all, thank you, Campaign India, for doing this, discussion, because it is a time we need to reflect, and a good question to start with. As a, person who's looking also at the PNL, we of course are very focused on having very clear business objectives, what's going to be the ROI, and winning an award is a good motivation, of course, to the whole team. But at the end of the day, what is the business problem this campaign is trying to solve? Is a very clear outlook. And as long as a brand is, and more, this year also when I was part of the jury, we saw, that is what was getting discussed. What is the problem the campaign is going to solve, and what is the impact? And looking at the impact very clearly has been, I think, a change in the focus overall this year in the jury. And I think it's in the right direction. As a marketeer, that's where I would like to look at too.
Okay, great. Russell, coming back to you, we saw this reel. Now we obviously have great talent. I mean, we saw the great Piyush Pandey, Prasoon. We've seen Prasoon Joshi, Siddharth, no longer here with us, Aggie, Paddy. I mean, some of the guys who've, they're the best of the best in the world. And I can tell you that. I've been on the global board, I've run many countries, but I can tell you our creative talent, in fact, most of our advertising talent is second to none. So we've had great talent, right? We've also had great success in the past. I mentioned Dentsu Web Chutney got the best agency in the world. We've got so many Grand Prix, we've got golds, we've got everything. But something has changed. We've done it in the past. We don't seem to be able to do it now. What has changed? Has the environment changed? From your perspective, has the client support to this change? Are they not supportive enough? Are we getting too scared to experiment? Is it a budgets issue? What is it, and what can we do looking forward to change this?
Yeah, I mean, that's a question that would probably need a longer answer, but I'm going to try and sort of crunch it down. I think fundamentally, as an industry, and I just want to say that change is necessary. I used to be a hockey player, and I still play the veteran circuit. My wife calls it slow motion hockey, but India were world champions, and then something changed in the environment. We moved from grass to AstroTurf, and we took a long time to adapt to that. The dance performance, the Kathak dance performance from earlier, suddenly is telling a modern story in one of the most traditional art forms. I think that's change. Change has to happen, and I feel some of the change that needs to occur, it needs to be our perspective of what problem we're solving. I feel the 30-second commercial, the 1-minute commercial, or whatever it is the last problem. We need to be going a little upstream and figuring out how to solve the first problem that a brand has. And if I have to look at what's been winning, not just this year, but over the last few years, I see ideas that are solving big business problems through the use of creativity. And I think we need to start playing that game. I can also identify what the challenges might be, but I think that might be another question. To an answer to your question, therefore, I feel we need to go a little more upstream as well. It's not like the 30-second commercial or the TV ad or it's essential to do that, but that is one of the pieces in solving, the first problem that the client might have or the brand might be facing.
And Binda, what's the role of a client in that? I mean, is a client, not you specifically, but is a client supposed to be the damp, wet blanket that they often are, or that exuberant, ja kar le, jo marzi karna hai, main sign kar dunga? Is there a role that a client has to play in this part as well?
See, it's actually a pure partnership. When a marketeer who's working closely 365 days on a particular brand or a group of brands they're working on, a portfolio they're working on, and a creative partner who's coming as a outside view, but also working across different categories. They're getting so many different perspectives, because what happens as a marketeer, you get into a silo. You're in an echo chamber. You're hearing the same things over and over again. That's why, as big a marketing team anyone would have, will never look at doing everything in-house. You will get trapped in an echo chamber. That's where an agency comes in But an agency can be only as good as, how much you can empower them at the end of the day. Great work, great idea sometimes come in. Maybe, as a marketeer, because I know the brand very well, I know some ground realities, things might not work. If I just brush it off at that level and, don't actually shift through it, develop it along with the team, it'll never see the light of the day. We'll both be, blaming each other and thinking, why is the great work not happening? So it's purely a partnership. And of course, as a marketer, different perspective here because most of the people are from the agency side. We are at the end responsible for the P&L. If the business is not delivering, we are answerable for it. So it is something, it is how we empower the agency, the kind of brief we give, how much comfort we give them. And what I have seen when I'm allocating a budget, maybe having a certain budget for trying out something very different and kind of convincing your internal stakeholders why we need to do that. It might work, it may not work. There might be great learnings if it doesn't work. So that is a leap of faith a marketer has to take. Otherwise, things won't move.
Phenomenal, and I hope more and more clients adopt that thinking. But you spoke of something which I'm very good at, but from an agency perspective, which is P&L. And just like how a client has a P&L, an agency has a P&L. And trust me, because I've had many, many agencies, their P&Ls, which I've looked at, entering Cannes is a very expensive process, right?
Absolutely.
It's not just the entry fees. Of course, people say the entry fees is a lot, but it's not just the entry fees. Everybody knows the amount of money that you have to spend to produce great film, to support that, etc., etc. If you don't do that, it won't be seen there because judges are seeing 50 ads in a couple of hours, etc. So the whole process is very, very expensive. Now, agency P&Ls can no longer perhaps afford that because clients may not be paying them fairly. So do you think there is a case for clients, since they share the glory when you win an award, sharing the costs? Will that ever happen, or clients going to say, that's your problem, you guys do it?
See, if it's a partnership, if it's a true partnership, I think we both look at each other and what works. For me, instance, I do share the cost. If I believe a certain case study deserves to be presented in a certain award category, I'm happy to share the cost with the partner for the entry. It's not just the cost for the entry itself and the entry fee and the film, but also the time you need to put, for these kind of case studies which goes to Cannes. I have seen agencies which won many, many awards. They have dedicated team actually working on it throughout the year, making the entries. It's also the commitment, the time commitment, and all those come at a cost.
I can almost see Paddy smiling even without looking at him on that count. But Russell, it's all very well to say. I feel that as far as time commitment is concerned, if you tell young creative people, they will put time of their own accord. Weekend, ye wo, sab kuch. But the reality is it's damn expensive. I mean, how do you, and everybody's margins are under pressure. We all know the cost pressures, et cetera, et cetera. In this scenario going forward, do you really think many agencies in India are practically going to be able to afford to keep up entering? And the fact is that if you don't enter, if you don't show up, you're definitely not going to win, irrespective of how good your work is. And while I did tell Vinitha outside that that era is gone, that we'll put 100 entries and therefore we'll know that, okay, 25 of them will get shortlisted, usme se kam 6 to jeet jayengi, etc. All of us have done those calculations, but that era is now over. We don't have the money to do it, we don't have the bandwidth to do it, and we don't have that luxury anymore. Given that, do you see money becoming a constraint for us in future, and is there a solution to it?
Yeah, I know this is supposed to be a debate, but I just want to call out that I couldn't agree with Abinda more when she said partnership. And we saw Piyush up on screen and we heard him talk, and he was, I worked in Ogilvy for a while, and he impacted my creative thinking immensely. But the most important thing was partnership. He from calling people partners to actually behaving like a partner, he sort of embodied all of those things. And I feel that that's really what separates a great agency-client relationship. it's a partnership. It's not a relationship. I mean, relationship is a very dubious word because, I mean, master-slave is also a relationship. It's partnership, a partnership of equals or professionals. And when you get that with a client, I mean, like, no, I'm happy to sit under their desk and keep throwing ideas up at them as much as possible because it's a very special thing. Because it's a partnership, a lot of our clients are also sharing the costs. It is not. It used to be the agency bearing all of it, by itself. But in our current reality, if our client partner believes in doing this, they are sharing the cost with us, and that is extremely heartening. Not everyone, and I'm not going to say which of our clients are sharing the cost because again, that's not information I want to share out there, but there are some very, very special partnerships that we have where the clients believe in this as much as we do. And I think that's really how we're going to have to go forward with this because it's unsustainable to believe that, like you said earlier, the brand gets actually as much attention as anybody else, and it is therefore important. There are marketers of the year, there are brands of the year, there are awards that sort of call that attention to our client partners, and I think that therefore it makes sense to do this as a practice more and more.
Good, and I'm really, really glad to hear that. Now, slightly shifting focus on something which is very topical in some ways, and that's technology. Right? India typically, I have noticed, has mistaken gimmicks for innovation. अभी कहीं एक लाल बत्ती जल जाएगी, कहीं एक website में ये हो जाएगा, and we start thinking that's technology. We are quick to catch on to the flavors of the month. So if it is AI, you'll find, I'm sure, 100 campaigns which will be figuring out and showing how AI has done. But particularly when I have judged, categories like direct marketing or some of the media categories, etc. Over the years, and it's not just now, I've noticed that we lag in technology. We make up in ideas, we make up in creativity, but very seldom have we been able to use technology, and technology keeps changing, obviously, over the last 20 years, very, very significantly. What was your experience this year in Cannes? Were the Indian entries using technology, AI now in today's context, as an integral part of the campaign, or was it just an add-on to tick a box over there? And is that an area where you felt that we were lacking?
I'll speak specifically, to the category I was looking at, which was sports under entertainment. And of course, we've always thought, how AI is going to impact creativity, take over a major part of the creative process. Surprisingly, all the case studies we went through, and especially the ones which were selected and went across to some metals, AI had very little to do with it. It was the core idea, and especially in sports, if you see, it's the last human domain, if you can see. It's about building community. It's about emotions, connecting with the fans. The ideas which, big budget campaigns with great execution, but the ideas which actually won were the ones which put fan in the center, which built communities, which brought a social change. I saw that very closely in my category, and when I was going through the other awards too, it was reflected in the same manner.
What was your experience, Russell, on this?
Yeah, so I know that Binda, as a jury member, did not get to attend enough of the talks and have those conversations because she was stuck in that dungeon that they have in the Palais. But I do feel that there were lots of conversations about AI, and it was really interesting that the media companies and the AI companies and the tech companies had the beach, blocking our path to the sea, but the work was in the basement. And the work had so much of human made in it. The work that it's not like technology did not exist. It absolutely existed, but I think we've reached a maturity. And in fact, even in India, we are now in this place where, the example I give is, there's a horse and a jockey. The jockey is the idea, and the horse is the vehicle, the technology, the media, etc. You're not going to get very far in that race if the jockey carries the horse. right? If the jockey, basically the jockey has to ride that horse and has to be the dominant point and be the dominant story. And I think that that's what we're seeing. When it's used, effectively it's used in that way, where the idea is central, it's the hero, and technology is employed by creativity, as opposed to technology for the sake of technology's sake. And I get what you were saying earlier. There's a little bit of gimmickiness in technology, but that's not what will win. Or that's not, forget about winning, it's not what will resonate with people. And I feel that we've seen examples even in your favorite ad, Steadfast. Uh, the use of technology and the use of AI was central to us being able to tell a story. Though the award we won was for script writing, not for AI. So it was script writing that employed serious AI tech. And I think the director, Raylin, along with Kapil Batra, who wrote that script, lived it and used technology in its most effective way.
Fantastic. Good to hear that. So we probably have now 3 or 4 minutes left from the time that was allocated to us. I'm going to ask both of you first. So I'm going to ask you 2 sets of questions. And just try to be as honest as you can about it. First set of questions is, can you tell me 1 or 2 things that you think went wrong for India this year? And I don't mean this as a postmortem, I mean this as a learning for people. What is it that we did not do well this year?
When I was, I was surprised because looking at the last few years, metal tally, I was expecting a lot more entries. There were actually less entries coming in and less quality entries this year. Maybe subject to, what the country was going through. People were more worried about keeping a client in the roster, keeping their jobs. I don't know what happened, but actually the quality of work submission was low, the quality of work really didn't make it to sometimes even to shortlisting. And I was speaking to other jury members also across categories. It is a real fact. And I hope, and I know there is a lot of good work happening. I see it. I mean, we all see it around. Maybe we've been a little underconfident also in presenting it. Many other countries, if you go to like LATAM countries,
they do fantastic, and they support each other.
So many different case studies, small, markets, small brands, and they present it so well. We, I think, are a little underconfident, and we kind of feel that maybe it won't make through. I think that needs to be pushed from all sides, from the brand and the agency.
So you feel we've lost the courage? The Piyush Pandey, the Prasoon Joshi, the Aggies and Paddies, the Siddharth who would go out and say, "Jaag karte hain, dekhe." Is that what we're lacking?
I think it needs to come from everyone, not just the agency, from the brands also. It's been a difficult year, looking at what's been happening around the world and in India particularly. It's been a difficult year, but I think we need to have that confidence, push ourselves, and present the cases in the best format possible.
Good, great to hear that. What about you, Russell? What do you think went wrong?
I think somewhere, one of the things was, like I said earlier, solving the first problem was really important. That needs to change. We need to start solving bigger problems using creativity. I think the other thing that I noticed of the work that won, and I'm puzzling over that as well, which is time. The time taken to develop and genuinely make an idea come alive. Like a few of the Grand Prix, the Adidas shoe, it took 3 years for them to develop. I don't think we have that in us. We need to quickly get this out because there's a can deadline, and we have to, it needed 3 years. I attended a talk by Fernando Machado, and he was talking about how Dove sketches became Dove sketches because they took the time to kill what he called the baby lions so that they could get the Grand Prix. And the baby lions it was an art gallery of pictures that said you versus you versus anonymous. That was the idea. They took the time to craft it, to figure out what the center of that piece was, and built it so that they could go on to win a Grand Prix. And I think we need to accept that great things will require that kind of a time and attention. This rush to get things towards Cannes, I feel is off. I also feel what's off is that Cannes is not a destination. Yes, it is a destination if you're a traveling tourist in the travel and tourism sort of sector, but it's not the end point. It's an outcome. and that outcome is of really brave, really interesting, really market-moving work, that then goes, you can't make Can the objective. Can is what happens because of great work, and what happens because of great partnership, what happens because you're solving the first problem, and that what happens when you have that craft and that time to craft it.
Well said, well put. Minna, now your last word. And we've got to be optimistic about the future. I personally believe we have the best talent. We've had great years before, and we will bounce back and will do well as we go forward. What are those one or two things you think that India needs to do so that we can make a dramatic shift? Just one or two, changes that we need to bring about.
From a marketing lens, I think, a better brief where we very clearly set out what the business problem is and what is the outcome we are looking at. So a better brief, that's actually learning for me too when I was going through like 400 different case studies, spending X hours going through it. It was quite, enriching for me too. How do I make it a better campaign? By very clearly defining the brief. What is the result I'm expecting? What is the behavior change I'm expecting? Sometimes it is not clear at that level. Then how do you expect an agency to come back with a good campaign as a result out of it? And true partnership, I think that is what I would say.
So your 2 points are that clients need to give sharper briefs, better briefs, and they need to be in the spirit of partnership, and that's what will make the change. Russell, what about you?
I think never settling. An example, this is again from Cannes, you come out of the Palais, the first few restaurants are packed. Those are the obvious ideas. You walk a little past the old harbor, you're going to get seats because that requires you to push it a little further. I think as a creative person in this business, we need to not settle. We need to sort of push ourselves first a little harder before we go back to the client with the answer that we are passionate about. It can't just be the immediate first. We need to have that stamina. We need to have that belief in ourselves and in the process and the vision. And I think pushing ourselves to the it's harder work, but that's what will separate us from the others.
So basically, sorry.
I'll just chime into that, what Russell was saying. Still, when I work for my campaign, we still stuck with when I send out a brief, the answer is a film. We've moved on, and that, the world has moved on. Sometimes the solution is not an ad film. And agencies also need to work that harder, that, it's not about creating a beautiful film. The solution might be somewhere else. It might be use of technology, not AI just to make a better film as a tool, but in a very different manner. The way you are responding to a customer. Of course, we've done it before with the Cadbury case study. That's wonderful use of technology again. So I think I'll chime in what you said. Not take the easy answer.
Essentially, you're saying don't settle for the closest restaurant, keep pushing till you get to Martinez, then turn left and get to the gutter bar. So, and don't give in till then. Well, I think that's a good way to wrap up Cannes, because if you don't end up in the gutter bar, you haven't had that bit. So thank you very much for being a great audience, and thank you to both the participants as well. Thank you.